Hi, I'm Chef Alan Tatro with Global Sugar Art, and today I'd like to show you how to make eucalyptus. Eucalyptus come in different colors. Sometimes they're greenish, sometimes they're like a moss green, sometimes they're like a forest green. They also come in red and sort of a mauve hue. They're a great filler greenery on almost any cake. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a little bit of gum paste. Now I've used the Roxy and Rich Fondust to color this. The base color was turquoise, and then I added a little bit of, let's see, I wrote this down. I added a little bit of super black and then a little bit of maple leaf green. And you can adjust the colors either way to get more blue or less blue. But that was what I used, turquoise, super black, and a little maple leaf green, and that's the powdered Fondust color. So I'm going to start with a little ball of paste. This is for the very top of the eucalyptus. And I've taken a 24 gauge wire and I've created a little hook on the end. Make the paste into a ball and make a little hole in the end. Dip the wire in glue and tap it to make sure that you get off any excess glue. And then just squeeze the end. And you're going to make this into sort of like a little cotton swab, like a Q-tip. You can put a little, I always keep a little cornstarch around to put on my hands when I'm gluing on wires. It helps to keep the paste from being too sticky. All right, once you get it to that point, you can either use a pair of scissors or you can use a palette knife. I sometimes find a little pair of scissors works really well. And I just want to cut that in half. And then bend one half one way and one half the other way. And just sort of flatten them out in your hand. These are like two little petal buds. And that's really all there is to it. It's just a little bit of a bud split in two. And then just put them in a former to dry, and we'll color those later. Now for the leaves, have your paste ready. Now I'm using a cell board, and the cell board has these 5 little channels here and one longer one here. That's for like making a really large leaf. These are for making the smaller leaves. I'm going to roll out my paste. And I'm going to place it over these little channels. And then just go back and forth. You want to make sure the paste gets right down in those channels. And then you got to put a little bit of pressure behind this. You want to thin these out. So I'm really thinning that paste out. I'm just trimming along the back. And then I'm just going to carefully, you have to be careful not to stretch it too much at this point. So I'm using a palette knife to get it started, and then flip it over. Now you can see how those little channels are showing up. Flip the board over, put a little cornstarch down so it doesn't stick. And now we're going to use our cutters. So we're going to use the FMM rose petal cutters, and I like to use 3 different sizes. The first 3, the smallest, and then the next 2 up. The other 2 are just a little too large for what we're using. So here's a little trick. I have this facing you. Normally I would have the large part down here. I'm going to do the larger one first, go right down, and put that channel, that thicker part, right in the center. And then you can use either one of the small cutters, and the channel is large enough that you can actually cut some extras. So for each little spray that I have here, I did 4 of each size. If you want to make a really long spray, just extend that, make like 6 of each size. Their leaves always grow in pairs, so just make sure that you make 2 of every size leaf that you're going to make. Once those leaves are cut, we're going to wire them. And I'm going to use 28 gauge green wire. It's very thin. I just cut these little lengths. Dip it in glue for maybe a ½ inch or so. Now there's two ways to wire. Some people actually put it on the edge of the board and just push in. It's got to go in about halfway. And then just pinch it to the wire. Make sure it didn't come out on the other side, because it does once in a while. Don't ever throw a leaf away. You use so many leaves in an arrangement on a cake, you can always find a place for an imperfect flower or leaf. So don't ever throw them away. I'm using one of the little FMM veiners, and I'm just going to lightly press. Now if I grab the wire and try to lift this up, I'm going to pull the wire right out of it because it's stuck to that leaf veiner a little bit. So I'm going to use a palette knife and lift that up. And that one's ready. And we're going to do another small one. And I'll show you the other way that I prefer to vein. Now, on these leaves, there's a pointed end and a rounded end. We're putting the wire in the rounded end so that the eucalyptus almost look like little heart leaves. The other way to do it is to hold it between your fingers. And if you've got good sensitivity in your fingers, you actually can feel the wire going in. And I find it much easier. I have less incidence of going through the petal on the other side. And that's a perfect one. That went right in. So that's the way I prefer to vein them, is just to hold it in my hand. Just press that down. Okay. And now we're going to do a little bit of thinning on the edge. Not a lot, but we do want them to have a little bit of a curled edge. And we can do the larger one too. Now if you have some formers, you can put them in a former. That's what I've done with these. If you don't have a former, just take a piece of aluminum foil and sort of scrunch it together with your fingers, and it will create all sorts of ridges and valleys. And then just lay the leaves in there so that they get a little bit of curl and they have different shapes, and allow them to dry until they're fully dry. It might take a day, might take a few hours. It all depends on the humidity in your area. And from here we go to coloring. I've got all my colors set up. I'm going to use 3 different colors. This is Teal by Roxy and Rich, and this is a Global Sugar Art Moss Green. That's what's in here. And then I have white. This is not Super Pearl. This is white petal dust, so it has no shine. So I'm going to begin with the dark color. So I'll take a leaf. I often find if you put your finger on the and rest the leaf or your flower petal on your finger, you won't break it. If you just hold it like this or hold it like this, as you put pressure with the brush, you're going to snap it. The other way is just to lay it down on a paper towel. So I'm lightly going to put a little bit of blue on both sides. And we really don't want it that blue, but we want that base color. So now we're using a little bit of the sage or the moss. We're going to top that, and that softens that dark blue. And then lastly, eucalyptus always has that little bit of a white just toward the stem. And that is a fully colored and ready to tape up into a spray. Let me clean this out of the way, and I'll show you how to wire these all together. Okay, I've got some all done. I'm going to use brown tape because the stems of eucalyptus are usually brown. I'm using 1/3 width. You could use half width, but I think a 1/3 is going to be better. And my fingers are green, so I apologize. We're going to start with the little center that we made. Start the tape and go up to the top and then just tape down about 1/2 inch. And then we're going to add the first 2 petals. Now, eucalyptus grow in pairs, so you want to make a set the same, just opposite of each other. And you're going to start those just under the bottom of the bud. And then tape those down. And then we're going to make another set of the small leaves. So I asked you to cut 4 of each size. And this next set will go down, maybe about 1/2 inch. You can make them closer. Really, they grow in all different ways. So now we're going to go to the medium. I'm going to take 2 of the petals, and again about 1/2 inch down, and just keep repeating this. It's very, very easy. And your fingers will turn a nice forest green by the end of the day. And then we're going to go to the largest. If you want to add another piece of wire at this point, so that you have more length on the spray of eucalyptus, in order to arrange them, you can do that if you'd like. And then the last one goes on. So that's a total of the bud and 4, 8, 12 leaves. And then just arrange them sort of haphazardly. They don't grow perfect. And that is a eucalyptus spray. And again, they come in many different colors. Just go online or go to a craft store and look at all the silk eucalyptus, and it'll give you an idea of the lengths and the sizes of the leaves, and basically a very easy greenery to make. I'm Chef Alan from Global Sugar Art. Everything I used today is available at globalsugarart.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.